Becoming a US citizen used to be simple. Study, pass the test, show up for your interview, and get approved. But not anymore. Now, USCIS officers are going to decide even more thoroughly whether or not you are a good enough person to become a US citizen. That means they can look into your case and look into your past to use any reason that they can find in order to deny you for not having a good moral character. But there's good news. If you know what they're looking for, you may be able to tip the scales in your own favor. So I'm going to break down exactly how these new rules work, what immigration officers are really looking for, and how you could become a US citizen even if you have some issues in your past. And stick around until the end. I'm going to give you a bonus strategy that could help you get your case approved. Okay, so what is this new good moral character strategy from USCIS? And why is it making so many immigrants so nervous? In the past, good moral character was handled like a simple checklist. Officers looked for simple problems like criminal convictions, unpaid taxes, unpaid child support. If you stayed clear of these issues, you were usually just fine. But now this checklist has been replaced with something a lot more subjective. Instead of simply asking if the applicant has stayed out of trouble, officers now get to ask, does this person look like a good member of American society? And this opens the door for officers to dig even more deeply into your life. So it's no longer just about crimes. It could be about traffic tickets, debt problems, whether you've been steadily employed, whether you're active in your community, and even about things that you have posted online. Also, before this rule, officers would really only focus typically between 3 to 5 years before your application. But now they can bring up things from decades ago. And if they find anything negative, they are charged with weighing the good versus the bad. Except now, the good or the bad factors are really per what they believe them to be. I'll give some examples of these in just a moment. And if the negatives outweigh the positives, then the new policy requires officers to deny your case. And if the negatives are close to the positive factors, then it boils down to the officer's subjective belief about whether or not your citizenship case should be approved. So this means that your future as a US citizen doesn't just depend on your application, it actually depends on the officer that gets assigned to your case. This is why immigrants are so anxious about this new rule. They feel like they're going to be measured against a moving target and that their future is going to depend on whether or not the officer likes them. So now you'll probably wonder what is going to count against me, what is going to be for me. Let me walk you through both of these sides so you can walk through it step by step and decide for yourself what you need to bolster in your case. Let's start with the negatives. The obvious things still matter. If you've ever been convicted of serious crimes such as murder or other aggravated felonies like rape or kidnapping, persecution, torture, genocide, or serious violations of religious freedom, then these are going to be considered automatic disqualifiers. And crimes such as drug offenses, multiple DUIs, unlawful voting, or making a false claim to US citizenship can block you from becoming a citizen ever in your lifetime. But here's what is new about how officers are going to judge your past actions in weighing the pros and the cons of you having good moral character. They could now consider and count arrests that never led to an actual conviction. They can dig into old immigration violations, even ones that were forgiven when you got your green card. They can look at any history of fraud or misrepresentation, not just with USCIS, but with any government agency. They are also told to consider your finances. They'll consider whether or not you've paid your taxes, if you owe child support, if you have large debts that you have ignored, if you have received public benefits for which you did not pay back. Even long periods of unemployment can count against you as a negative factor. And one of the most controversial factors to consider is going to be what they consider to be anything that is anti-American activity. USCIS now says that they believe that if you have promoted anti-American views online, even if they were not negative views, these can count against you and will be considered an overwhelmingly negative factor. But the problem is that nothing defines exactly what is considered to be an anti-American view. People online are already saying that what if the officer believes that being anti-American means not supporting Trump or supporting Palestinians or even promoting LGBTQ plus viewpoints? This type of uncertainty is what makes it so stressful. Note that it is still highly unlikely that USCIS will deny your applications specifically because of your political views or sexual orientation. However, we have seen immigration go after immigrants with pro-Palestinian viewpoints. So please be careful about what you post online and what you support online. And I know that this is not fair because this is actually quite anti-American to be so limiting on the First Amendment, but here we are. Next, let's talk about the positives. The good news is that USCIS has spelled out what they do consider to be positives, so let's go into these to see if you can use these to tip the balance in your favor. Things like volunteering, being active in your community, participating in your church or other positive organizations, taking care of your kids, your spouse, or your parents, completing school or professional training, holding steady, lawful jobs, paying your taxes on time, living responsibly in the US for many years can all be considered positive factors. And if you have had any problems in the past, proof of rehabilitation is important, and such proofs can include paying back taxes or overdue child support, completing probation, showing sobriety, mentoring others, or providing letters from neighbors, friends, religious leaders, and anyone else who can speak to your character. All of these can help tip the scale towards your approval. So you're not exactly powerless. The more proof you build to show your good moral character, the better your chances are of getting approved. So now that you know what officers put in the negative column and what they put in the positive column, the big question is, how do you make sure that the positive column outweighs the negative? The answer is you put together what I would call a portfolio of good moral character. Think of it like this. If an officer is going to judge your whole life, you don't want to just walk in and hope they see the good. You want to hand it to them in a way that makes it obvious and lays it out for them like they're a child. So what should go into your portfolio? First, documents. Tax returns showing you pay them on time and that you filed on time, pay stubs or employment letters, proving steady work, school transcripts, certificates, or diplomas if you studied or trained, proof of volunteer work or community involvement, even if it's something small like helping out at one event at your school or at your church. And second, letters. These can come from employers, coworkers, neighbors, religious figures, anyone who has some sort of standing in your life to show that you have good moral character. And you want these letters to speak to your honesty, to your work ethic, and to your involvement in the community. The more specific they are about your contributions, the better. Third, explanations for any negatives. If you had a DUI or unpaid taxes, or had a stretch of unemployment, explain why. Don't ignore it and include some proof. Show that you paid back what you owed, show that you tried to find a job, show that you tried to rehabilitate yourself if you have criminal convictions. This can make a big difference in your case and how they weigh the positives versus the negative. Fourth, own your own statement. Your statement does not need to be dramatic, but it needs to be detailed in the right way. Tell the officer why you came here, how you built your life, and what you've done to contribute to American society. Officers are human, and they're going to respond personal pleas explaining what you have done and why you deserve to become a US citizen. They want to see that you have taken seriously your responsibilities to this community. That's all that you need to keep in mind for your good moral character portfolio, but don't forget one more thing, your online presence. Officers now have permission to check social media and other digital contents. So they're going to check your presence online, and if they find something that they consider to be anti-American, they may use it against you. So you need to be careful. Don't post things that could be misinterpreted, and you already know what the hot button issues are, so be careful and cautious about your involvement supporting certain causes. And avoid language that could be twisted to look hostile towards the US or against the president. Avoid language that could also be seen as critical of Israel or be seen as anti-Semitic or be seen as supporting anything that is pro-Islamic. These will almost certainly prevent you from becoming a citizen underneath Trump. And finally, if you know that you have some serious issues in your past, like old criminal charges, multiple DUIs, or other immigration problems, don't go it alone. Work with an immigration attorney. These cases need to be tread very, very carefully, and they require the handling of an experienced attorney to be resolved successfully. My name is Moumita Rahman, and I have been helping thousands of immigrants all over the United States for the past 15 years. If you would like my help on your citizenship case, give us a call at 212-248-7907. Even though I'm based in New York, I work with clients in all 50 states. And this good moral character rule is not the only thing that has immigrants nervous. There's another new change targeting family and green card based applications, and it's putting more people at risk of being sent to court, even if they've done nothing wrong. And what makes it worse is that one small mistake, the kinds that used to be fixable, can now push your entire case into removal proceedings. So in my other video, I walk you through what to expect and what to watch out for. Click here just to see how I explain what's really going on, and I'll see you there.